Welcome to the Sports Trading Card Hall of Fame. I'm Darren, and I wanted to spend this video to talk about why I'm putting together this project, why I'm building this up. And the reason that I'm putting together this project is I am an historian and I love cards. And to me, the story of cards is not very well told. Now, if you want to talk about vintage, there's a great understanding of the history of vintage. Everything's pretty much pieced together, although it's tough to really get all those pieces and put them together. But the story of the active journey of cards, primarily through the 90s, is one that it really hasn't been written too well. And so you get little pieces here and there, and it's primarily a problem of different sports are we kind of cloister ourselves, and we don't have a good interaction one sport to another to really understand how everything was maneuvering in conjunction. There were 4 sports, and every one of those 4 sports played a role in the journey of cards. You go back to vintage and it's basically baseball and boxing. That's pretty much what vintage cards were. You start getting some football as you're closing in on the war, and then after the war it's basically a 3-sport and then occasionally a 4-sport space for card collecting. So the story has largely been about baseball, and it's not until after the war that you start to get football and hockey contributing to the story of cards. But that changed in the late 80s, and everything that happened during that decade of the 90s was pretty remarkable. And it's tough to really wrap your head around it. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that happened earlier than that that doesn't really get the proper due, because it's not as many of the important parts of the story of cards are not really glossy and exciting. A set like 1988 Score is an old looking card. It looks archaic, and that's because it was not built to the whole maximum potential that it could have. 1989 Upper Deck looks a lot more cutting edge. It's just 1 year later and it looks like it's really high end. But the difference between the two is does that make the Upper Deck set more important and better than the 88 Score set? Well, actually no, it doesn't, because 88 Score laid out the groundwork. And so it's easier to look at the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card in 1989 with Upper Deck and look at that and go, okay, that is innovative, that is all of these things. It fits the storyline. 88 Score is kind of an ugly set. The printing quality isn't very good. None of the cards are memorable, and so it's easy to forget about it. That's part of the story that I want to tell, is I want to get in there and say, no, look, these are the things that happened. These are the influences that really built up cards. And I want to look at cards across all sports, or at least all of 4 main sports. But I also want to look at it across cards. I want to look at sets. I want to look at technology. I want to look at materials. I want to look at the card cuts. I want to look at the people who are involved in cards. Now, I do know that there's a baseball card Hall of Fame and a football card Hall of Fame. There are Hall of Fames where you look at famous cards, and that's great. That has a role to play. But there's a big portion of the story that is completely overlooked by looking at those aspects. And that's what I want to do. I want to go in and I want to look more at cards rather than famous pictures of players that people collect. So that is the whole point of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell a story that I don't really feel is told. And I want to do it in a way where I have a YouTube channel that is dedicated to this, so that every single week I can put up a video to talk about more of this journey. And I also have a website that I am working on. Everything right now is I'm working on it. So for those of you watching this video very early on, some of the stuff may not even be up. The set's going to change. The videos, the way I present the videos are going to change. The content that I have on the channel, these are all going to change. But this is designed to have an accompanying website where you can see in a more static fashion the information, really see what's in this Sports Trading Card Hall of Fame, and have kind of a presentation space. But I'm also hoping to create something of an interactive component, which is that right now I am kicking this thing off, and I've got to create the story so that people understand the point of what this is about, understand the content, the reason for the choices that are made, the stories that are being told. I need to develop that language. Once that language is in place and people really have finally started to get a handle of it on their own, then we can really open up the discussion and create more of a unilateral move toward choosing, which is more in line with the way that Hall of Fames tend to work. But it's going to take a while for that to happen, and I don't know how I'm going to form it. I mean, everything right now is completely up in the air. It's really going to be interesting to see how it all evolves. But the Sports Trading Card Hall of Fame is built on two aspects. One is the basic Hall of Fame. Anytime you go to a Hall of Fame, you're going to a museum, and the museum tells the story of, usually it's a sport that the Hall of Fame is about, and so it tells the history of the sport. It shows you the different balls or pucks or the tools that are used for competition. You get to see the different uniforms, helmets, whatever. You get to see all of those things, the progression, and you get to see maybe schemes, different techniques that have evolved over time in the sport, see rules. All of these things play into it. And for cards, it works very much the same way, because with cards, there are famous rookie cards that are famous because they're the rookie card. Joe Namath only has one rookie card. What about Pete Rose? Only one rookie card. Ken Griffey Jr.? Okay, well now you're starting to get more rookie cards, and over the years as time progressed, more and more and more famous cards started popping up because there were lots of special cards of different players. But some cards were more valued than others. Why was that? Well, the reason that those cards were more valued wasn't because it was the card of the player. It had to do with things like the rarity. It had to do with the cost that the cards initially had, but it also has to do with technology, design, materials that were used for the cards. All of that goes into what makes cards special, which means it's actually the technology. It's actually the card design. That's what makes these cards special. But we don't really talk about that aspect of it, and I want to. I want to make sure that you understand these things. You understand die cutting, you understand lenticular cards, you understand, well, frankly, packs, the technology that happened in packs. This is all an important part of how cards evolved, how we evolved as card collectors, how we experience cards. All of that is the journey that got us to where we are today. So I want to put together a museum that shows all of that, but I also want to have, whether it's a binder of honor or a shelf of honor, I want to have a collection of honorable guests of this sports card world. Now, some of this will be cards, but some of it will be card technology, it will be sets, it will be people, it will be all of those things. The really big highlights, the things that are most famous and most treasured or most influential, there will be a separate section that highlights that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the collection of the Sports Trading Card Hall of Fame. Every month I'm going to be adding multiple pieces to the story. And then at some point, and for many of you, we will already be past that, but at the time I'm making this, at some point I'm going to start to elevate pieces of that collection up to the higher level. And that is going to be a really exciting journey to go through, where you get to then start to see the really big points, the really important contributions, influences. Those are going to be highlighted very much on their own, and it's going to provide a much better ability to see the influences of cards. Not just famous cards, but you'll really be able to see the places in the card hobby where things changed. The things that made our card collecting eyes pop wide open and really get excited. So that is what I want to do with this project, with this journey. And there are other stories I'd like to also include into this, but that is the basic premise of what this channel is built around and what this project is built around and how I want to approach it. So I look forward to seeing how it grows, how it evolves over time. I look forward to seeing how I create an interactive environment, or how an interactive environment may find me. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But again, right now it's just the bare bones. I'm just starting out, and it's going to be quite a ride. So I do hope that you join with me on this journey. And I hope that it reads really well, that you're able to enjoy it, that you're able to learn a lot, because that's really what I want this to be about. I want this to be not just really cool things, but I want for people to be able to better understand cards and better appreciate cards, ideally, if that's possible, which in most cases I think it is. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe so that you can follow along and see how this goes and learn along the way. And yeah, thanks for watching.